Step away from the screens and into the moments that matter. Break free from social media, reclaim your time, and rediscover the life you've been missing. Digital Detox. Break free from social media and reclaim your life. Written by Johann and published by Listen, Grow Sleep. Before we begin, please help this channel out by dropping a like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. It's always awesome to see where people are watching from around the world. Now listen, grow, and hopefully you fall asleep. Now let's dive in. Introduction: the rare perspective of a social media abstainer. You probably don't realize that right now you're actually listening to something quite rare. My name is Johann, and I am a millennial computer scientist and book author behind this book. And yet, I've never had a social media account. Not one. No Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter, no TikTok. Nothing. How did this happen? It was actually somewhat random. Social media first came onto my radar when I was at college, during my sophomore year. This was when Facebook arrived at our campus. At the time, which was right after the first .com bust, I had a dorm room business that I'd had to shut down in the bust. Then suddenly, this other kid from Harvard named Mark had this product called Facebook, and people were getting excited about it. In a fit of somewhat immature professional jealousy, I said, "I'm not going to use this thing. I won't help this kid's business, whatever it's going to amount to." As I went along in my life, I looked up not long later and saw everyone I knew was hooked on this thing. From the clarity you can get when you have some objectivity, some perspective on it, I realized this seemed a little bit dangerous, so I never signed up. I've never had a social media account since. I'm here today for two reasons. I want to deliver two important messages. The first message I want to deliver is that even though I've never had a social media account, I'm okay. You don't have to worry about me. It turns out I still have friends. I still know what's going on in the world. As a computer scientist, I still collaborate with people all around the world. I'm still regularly exposed serendipitously to interesting ideas, and I rarely describe myself as lacking entertainment options. So I've been okay without social media. But I'd go even further and say that not only am I okay without it, but I think I'm actually better off. I think I'm happier. I think I find more sustainability in my life. And I think I've been more successful professionally because I don't use social media. My second goal here is to try to convince more of you to believe the same thing. Let's see if I can actually convince you that you too would be better off if you quit social media. If the theme of this book is digital detox, I guess my vision of the future would be one in which fewer people actually use social media. That's a big claim, and I think I need to back it up. So what I'd like to do is take the three most common objections I hear when I suggest to people that they quit social media, and then for each of these objections, I'll try to defuse the hype and see if I can actually push in some more reality. Chapter 1. Debunking the fundamental technology. Myth. The first most common objection I hear goes as follows. Social media is one of the fundamental technologies of the 21st century. To reject social media would be an act of extreme luddism. It would be like riding to work on a horse or using a rotary phone. I can't take such a big stance in my life. My reaction to that objection is that I think it's nonsense. Social media is not a fundamental technology. It leverages some fundamental technologies, but it's better understood as a source of entertainment. It's an entertainment product. The way that technologist Jaron Lanier puts it is that these companies offer you shiny treats in exchange for minutes of your attention and bytes of your personal data, which can then be packaged up and sold. So to say that you don't use social media should not be a large social stance. It's just rejecting one form of entertainment for others. There should be no more controversy in this than saying, I don't like newspapers, I like to get my news from magazines. Or, I prefer to watch cable series as opposed to network television series. It's not a major political or social stance to say, you don't use this product. My use of the slot machine image is not accidental, because if you look a little bit closer at these technologies, it's not just that they're a source of entertainment, but they're a somewhat unsavory source of entertainment. We now know that many of the major social media companies hire individuals called attention engineers, who borrow principles from Las Vegas casino gambling, among other places, to try to make these products as addictive as possible. That is the desired use case of these products, that you use them in an addictive fashion because that maximizes the profit that can be extracted from your attention and data. Let's look at how these attention engineers work. They employ several psychological tactics that casinos have perfected over decades. Variable rewards. Just like slot machines, social media platforms deliver unpredictable rewards. Sometimes you check your phone and find something exciting, likes, comments, interesting news, and sometimes you don't. This unpredictability keeps you coming back, checking compulsively, because the next reward might be just one scroll away. The infinite scroll. Platforms eliminated natural stopping points. Unlike a newspaper with a final page, social feeds are endless, designed to keep you scrolling indefinitely. Social validation. Humans are wired to seek approval from others. The like button taps directly into this need, creating a powerful feedback loop where users constantly seek the dopamine hit that comes from social validation. Fear of missing out. FOMO. Social media platforms deliberately foster the anxiety that something important is happening without you, compelling you to check in constantly. Personalized content. Using sophisticated algorithms, these platforms learn exactly what keeps you engaged, what topics, what emotional triggers, what time of day, and then serve you precisely the content that will maximize your time on the platform. These aren't accidental features, they're deliberate design choices made by some of the brightest minds in technology, all aimed at one goal, keeping you engaged for as long as possible so more of your attention can be sold to advertisers. So when we talk about social media, we're not talking about a fundamental technology like the internet or smartphones. We're talking about a specific application of technology that has been engineered to be as addictive as possible. Think about it this way. The internet is like electricity, a fundamental technology that enables countless applications. Social media is just one application, like a particular brand of television. You wouldn't consider it Luddism to choose not to watch a specific TV channel. Similarly, choosing not to use social media isn't rejecting technology. It's simply being selective about which applications of technology deserve your time and attention. So remember, social media is not a fundamental technology. It's just a source of entertainment, one among many. And it's somewhat unsavory if you look a little bit closer. Chapter 2, The Professional Success. Myth. The second common objection I hear when I suggest that people quit social media is this. I can't quit social media because it is vital to my success in the 21st century economy. If I do not have a well-cultivated social media brand, people won't know who I am. People won't be able to find me, opportunities won't come my way, and I will effectively disappear from the economy. Again, my reaction is, once again, this objection also is nonsense. I recently published a book that draws on multiple different strands of evidence to make the point that in a competitive 21st century economy, what the market values is the ability to produce things that are rare and are valuable. If you produce something that's rare and valuable, the market will value that. What the market dismisses for the most part are activities that are easy to replicate and produce a small amount of value. Well, social media use is the epitome of an easy-to-replicate activity that doesn't produce a lot of value. It's something that any 6-year-old with a smartphone can do. By definition, the market is not going to give a lot of value to those behaviors. It's instead going to reward the deep, concentrated work required to build real skills and to apply those skills to produce things, like a craftsman, that are rare and that are valuable. To put it another way, if you can write an elegant algorithm, if you can write a legal brief that can change a case, if you can write 1,000 words of prose that's going to fixate a reader right to the end, if you can look at a sea of ambiguous data and apply statistics and pull out insights that could transform a business strategy, if you can do these types of activities which require deep work that produce outcomes that are rare and valuable, people will find you. You will be able to write your own ticket and build the foundation of a meaningful and successful professional life, regardless of how many Instagram followers you have. Let me give you some concrete examples of how this plays out in the real world. Example 1. The software developer. Consider two software developers. The first spends hours each day cultivating their Twitter presence, posting about coding, engaging in tech discussions, and building a following. The second spends those same hours mastering advanced algorithms, contributing to open source projects, and developing unique solutions to complex problems. When a company is looking to hire someone to solve a critical technical challenge, who do they value more? The developer with 10,000 Twitter followers who has basic coding skills, or the developer who can actually solve their complex problem, even if they have zero social media presence? The market consistently rewards the latter. Example 2. The writer. One writer spends 3 hours daily on Instagram, building a following by posting aesthetically pleasing photos of their writing setup, coffee cups, and inspirational quotes. Another writer spends those 3 hours honing their craft, developing their voice, and producing compelling work. When a publisher is looking for the next great novel, they're looking for exceptional writing, not exceptional social media management. J.K. Rowling, Cormac McCarthy, and many of the world's most successful authors have minimal or no social media presence. Their success comes from their ability to produce rare and valuable work, stories that captivate millions. Example 3. The consultant. A consultant might believe they need to be active on LinkedIn, sharing industry articles and commenting on trends to attract clients. But what clients actually pay premium rates for is the consultant's ability to solve their specific problems and deliver results that others cannot. I know countless successful consultants who have never posted on LinkedIn. Their business comes entirely from referrals based on the quality of their work and the results they deliver. The market values their rare and valuable skills, not their social media activity. The truth is that professional success in almost any field comes from developing skills that are hard to replicate and producing work that delivers significant value. Social media creates the illusion of professional value because it's visible and measurable, followers, likes, shares, but these metrics rarely translate to economic value in the marketplace. Think about the most successful people in any field: the top surgeons, attorneys, engineers, scientists, artists, entrepreneurs. Their success doesn't come from their social media presence. It comes from their ability to do things that few others can do. They've invested thousands of hours in developing rare and valuable skills rather than cultivating a social media brand. So, if you're worried that quitting social media will harm your professional prospects, ask yourself, what rare and valuable skills could I develop with the time I currently spend on social media? What deep work could I accomplish? What problems could I solve? The answers to these questions will lead to far greater professional success than any number of followers ever could. Chapter 3. The harmless entertainment myth. This is the third common objection I hear when I suggest to people that they quit social media. In some sense, I think it might be one of the most important. This objection goes as follows. Maybe I agree, maybe you're right, it's not a fundamental technology. Maybe using social media is not at the core of my professional success. But you know what? It's harmless. I have some fun on it. Twitter's funny. I don't even use it that much. I'm a first adopter. It's kind of interesting to try it out, and maybe I might miss out on something if I don't use it. What's the harm? Again, I look back and I say, this objection also is nonsense. In this case, what it misses is what I think is a very important reality that we need to talk about more frankly, which is that social media brings with it multiple, well-documented and significant harms. We actually have to confront these harms head-on when trying to make decisions about whether or not we embrace this technology and let it into our lives. The professional harm: diminished ability to focus. One of these harms that we know this technology brings has to do with your professional success. I just argued before that the ability to focus intensely, to produce things that are rare and valuable, to hone skills the marketplace values, this is what will matter in our economy. But right before that, I argued that social media tools are designed to be addictive. The actual desired use case of these tools is that you fragment your attention as much as possible throughout your waking hours. That's how these tools are designed to be used. We have a growing amount of research which tells us that If you spend large portions of your day in a state of fragmented attention, large portions of your day breaking up your attention to take a quick glance, to just check, let me quickly look at Instagram, that this can permanently reduce your capacity for concentration. In other words, you could permanently reduce your capacity to do exactly the type of deep effort that we're finding to be more and more necessary in an increasingly competitive economy. Let me explain how this works at a neurological level. When you constantly switch your attention from one task to another, which is exactly what happens when you check social media throughout your day, you're training your brain to be distracted. This isn't just a matter of habit, it actually changes the neural pathways in your brain. The human brain has a remarkable property called neuroplasticity, which means it physically reconfigures itself based on how you use it. When you repeatedly engage in patterns of fragmented attention, you're strengthening the neural networks associated with distraction and weakening those associated with deep focus. Dr. Michael Merzenich, a pioneer in the field of neuroplasticity, has demonstrated that the brain adapts to whatever we ask it to do most frequently. If we constantly ask our brain to process small bits of low-value information, like social media updates, it becomes increasingly optimized for that type of shallow processing and increasingly poor at deep thinking. This is why many people report that after years of heavy social media use, they find it difficult to read a book for an extended period. They've literally reshaped their brains to prefer distraction over concentration. So social media use is not harmless. It can actually have a significant negative impact on your ability to thrive in the economy. I'm especially worried about this when we look at the younger generation, which is the most saturated in this technology. If you lose your ability to sustain concentration, you're going to become less and less relevant to this economy. The psychological harms: loneliness, inadequacy, and anxiety. There are also psychological harms that are well documented that social media brings that we do need to address. We know from the research literature that the more you use social media, the more likely you are to feel lonely or isolated. This might seem counterintuitive. After all, isn't social media connecting us to more people? But the evidence is clear. Digital connections often come at the expense of deeper, more meaningful in-person relationships. A 2017 study published in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine found that young adults with high social media use felt more socially isolated than their peers who use social media less frequently. The researchers surveyed 1,787 US adults ages 19 to 32 and found that those who use social media more than 2 hours a day had twice the odds of perceived social isolation than those who used social media for less than half an hour per day. Why does this happen? One reason is that social media interactions lack many of the nonverbal cues, eye contact, touch, vocal tone, that help us feel connected to others. These digital interactions can feel hollow compared to the richness of in-person connection. Another psychological harm comes from constant social comparison. We know that the constant exposure to your friends' carefully curated, positive portrayals of their lives can leave you feeling inadequate and can increase rates of depression. Think about it. People share their highlight reels on social media, their vacations, achievements, perfect family moments, while you're seeing these images during your ordinary, messy daily life. This creates a perpetual sense that everyone else is living a more exciting, successful, and happy life than you are. A study from the University of Pennsylvania found that limiting social media use to 30 minutes per day led to significant reductions in loneliness and depression over the course of 3 weeks. The researchers concluded that there is a causal relationship between social media use and decreased well-being. And something I think we're going to be hearing more about in the near future is that there's a fundamental mismatch between the way our brains are wired and this behavior of exposing yourself to stimuli with intermittent rewards throughout all of your waking hours. It's one thing to spend a couple of hours at a slot machine in Las Vegas, but if you bring one with you and you pull that handle all day long, from when you wake up to when you go to bed, we're not wired for it. It short-circuits the brain, and we're starting to find it has actual cognitive consequences, one of them being this sort of pervasive background hum of anxiety. The canary in the coal mine for this issue is actually college campuses. If you talk to mental health experts on college campuses, they'll tell you that along with the rise of ubiquitous smartphone use and social media use among the students on the campus came an explosion of anxiety-related disorders on those campuses. That's the canary in the coal mine. This type of behavior is a mismatch for our brain wiring and can make you feel miserable. The social harm, degradation of civil discourse. Beyond the individual harms to your professional capabilities and psychological well-being, social media is also having a profound negative impact on our collective ability to engage in civil discourse and maintain a healthy democracy. Social media platforms are designed to maximize engagement, and unfortunately, outrage and division generate more engagement than nuanced discussion. The algorithms that determine what content you see are optimized to show you things that will provoke an emotional reaction, often anger or indignation, because that's what keeps you scrolling and interacting. This has led to what social scientists call affective polarization, the tendency to view those with different political opinions not just as wrong, but as bad people. A 2018 study found that affective polarization has increased dramatically in recent decades, and social media appears to be a significant contributing factor. The design of these platforms also encourages what psychologists call group polarization, where like-minded individuals reinforce each other's views and gradually move toward more extreme positions. When you primarily interact with people who share your viewpoint, your opinions tend to become more entrenched and more extreme over time. Furthermore, the rapid-fire nature of social media interactions discourages the kind of slow, thoughtful reflection that complex issues require. Instead, it rewards quick, clever, and often dismissive responses. This is not conducive to understanding different perspectives or finding common ground. So there's real cost to social media use, which means when you're trying to decide, should I use this or not? Зрения говорят, что это безвредно недостаточно. You actually have to identify a significantly positive, clear benefit that can outweigh these potential, completely non-trivial harms. Chapter 4. Life after social media, the digital detox process. People often ask, okay, but what is life like without social media? That can actually be a little bit scary to think about. According to people who went through this process, there can be a few difficult weeks. It actually is like a true detox process. The first 2 weeks can be uncomfortable. You feel a little bit anxious, you feel like you're missing a limb, but after that, things settle down, and actually, life after social media can be quite positive. The withdrawal phase. What to expect. Let's talk honestly about what happens when you first quit social media. The initial period, typically the first 2 weeks, can be challenging. This isn't just anecdotal, it's backed by research on behavioral addiction. When you first stop using social media, you might experience phantom phone syndrome. You'll reach for your phone dozens of times a day out of habit, expecting to check your feeds. FOMO, fear of missing out. You'll worry about missing important news, events, or conversations happening in your social circles. Boredom. Suddenly, you'll have pockets of time throughout your day that were previously filled with scrolling. This empty space can initially feel uncomfortable. Social anxiety. You might worry that you'll lose touch with friends or miss invitations to events. Dopamine withdrawal. Your brain has become accustomed to the regular hits of dopamine that come from likes, comments, and new content. When these stop, you may feel less pleasure temporarily. These symptoms are normal and temporary. They're signs that your brain is rewiring itself, breaking the addiction cycle that social media platforms deliberately created. Think of it as your neural pathways being reconfigured for a healthier relationship with technology. Dr. Anna Lemke, chief of the Stanford Addiction Medicine Dual Diagnosis Clinic, explains that it takes about 2 weeks for the brain's reward pathways to reset after stopping an addictive behavior. This is why the first 2 weeks are the hardest. You're literally going through withdrawal. But here's the good news. It gets easier. And the benefits that await on the other side are substantial. The recovery phase. Rediscovering your attention. After the initial withdrawal period, most people enter what I call the recovery phase. This is when you begin to rediscover your capacity for sustained attention and deep thought. During this phase, which typically begins around week 3 of your digital detox, you'll notice improved concentration. You'll find yourself able to focus on single tasks for longer periods without feeling the urge to check your phone. Increased reading stamina. Many former social media users report being able to read books again, something they struggled with while active on social media. Better memory. Without the constant influx of new information, your brain can better process and retain what you learn. Reduced anxiety. That background hum of anxiety I mentioned earlier. Many people report that it begins to fade during this phase. More authentic connections. You'll likely find yourself having more meaningful conversations and deeper connections with the people physically present in your life. This recovery phase is when the benefits of quitting social media begin to outweigh the discomfort of withdrawal. Your brain is healing, rebuilding its capacity for deep work and sustained attention. The flourishing phase, life beyond social media. There are 2 things I can report back from the world of no social media use. First, it can be quite productive. I'm a professor at a research institution. I've written 5 books. I rarely work past 5 p.m. on a weekday. Part of the way I'm trying to be able to pull that off is because it turns out if you treat your attention with respect, so you don't fragment it, you allow it to stay whole, you preserve your concentration. When it comes time to work, you can do one thing after another and do it with intensity, and intensity can be traded for time. It's surprising how much you can get done in an 8-hour day if you're able to give each thing intense concentration after another. This is what Cal Newport, in his book Deep Work, calls the superpower of the 21st century. The ability to focus without distraction on cognitively demanding tasks. When you're not constantly interrupting yourself to check social media, you enter what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls a flow state, a condition of complete absorption in a task where you lose track of time and perform at your peak. This state of flow is not only highly productive, but also intrinsically rewarding. It feels good to be fully engaged in meaningful work. Something else I can report back from life without social media is that outside of work, things can be quite peaceful. I often joke I'd be very comfortable being a 1930s farmer, because if you look at my leisure time, I read the newspaper while the sun comes up. I listen to baseball on the radio. I honest to God sit in a leather chair and read hardcover books at night after my kids go to bed. It sounds old-fashioned, but they were onto something back then. It's actually a restorative, peaceful way to actually spend your time out of work. You don't have the constant hum of stimuli and the background hum of anxiety that comes along with that. Practical strategies for your digital detox. If you're convinced that you want to try life without social media, here are some practical strategies to make your digital detox successful. Start with a trial period. Commit to 30 days without social media. This gives you enough time to get through the withdrawal phase and experience some of the benefits. Delete the apps. Don't just log out. Actually, delete the social media apps from your phone. This creates friction that helps break the habit of checking. Announce your departure. Let your connections know you're taking a break and provide alternative ways to reach you. Email, phone, etc. Create a replacement plan. Decide in advance what you'll do with the time you previously spent on social media. Will you read more, take up a hobby, spend more time with friends in person? Use technology to help. Consider using apps like Freedom or Cold Turkey that can block access to specific websites during certain times. Find an accountability partner. If possible, do your digital detox with a friend. You can support each other through the challenging early days. Keep a journal. Document how you feel throughout the process. This can be motivating when you start to notice positive changes. Be flexible about digital tools. Remember, the goal isn't to reject all technology, just the specific applications that fragment your attention and diminish your well-being. You can still use email, text messaging, and other digital tools that serve you rather than exploit you. Many people who try a 30-day social media detox decide to make it permanent once they experience the benefits. Others choose to return to social media, but with strict boundaries, perhaps checking it only at specific times or using it only on desktop computers rather than phones. Whatever you decide, the key is to make social media a conscious choice rather than an unconscious habit. You should control your relationship with these platforms, not the other way around. Life without social media is really not so bad. In fact, for many people, it's significantly better, more productive, more peaceful, and more present. Chapter 5, The Joy of Missing Out, JOMO. We've all heard of FOMO, the fear of missing out, that anxious feeling that somewhere, somehow, something amazing is happening and you're not there to experience it. FOMO is one of the most powerful psychological hooks that keeps people tethered to their social media accounts, constantly checking for updates, afraid they might miss an important event, conversation, or trend. But there's an antidote to FOMO, and it's what I call JOMO, the joy of missing out. JOMO is the delicious feeling of relief when you choose not to participate in something that doesn't align with your values or priorities. It's the contentment of being exactly where you want to be, doing exactly what you want to do, regardless of what everyone else is doing. The psychology of FOMO. Before we dive into JOMO, let's understand why FOMO has such a powerful grip on us. FOMO isn't just a trendy acronym, it's a real psychological phenomenon. Studies have shown that FOMO is linked to lower mood, lower life satisfaction, and higher levels of social anxiety. It's that persistent worry that others are having rewarding experiences that you're missing out on. This fear has always existed in human psychology. We're social creatures wired to be concerned about our place in the group. But social media has amplified FOMO to unprecedented levels. Now we can see in real time exactly what we're missing: the parties, the vacations, the achievements, the connections. Social media platforms are designed to exploit this vulnerability. They show you carefully curated highlights of other people's lives, creating the impression that everyone else is living more exciting, fulfilling lives than you are. The algorithms prioritize content that generates engagement, which often means showing you the most envy-inducing posts from your network. Dr. Andrew Przybylski, a psychologist at Oxford University who has studied FOMO extensively, defines it as a pervasive apprehension that others might be having rewarding experiences from which one is absent. His research found that FOMO is highest in young people and those who have unsatisfied psychological needs for competence, autonomy, and relatedness. The irony is that the more you try to alleviate FOMO by checking social media, the worse it gets. Each check reinforces the behavior and exposes you to more content that triggers the fear. It's a vicious cycle that social media companies profit from, embracing JOMO, a paradigm shift. JOMO represents a complete paradigm shift in how we think about our relationship with technology and social connection. Instead of seeing non-participation as a loss, JOMO reframes it as a gain, a conscious choice to prioritize what truly matters to you. Let me share a personal JOMO experience. A few years ago, I was invited to 3 different New Year's Eve parties. In previous years, driven by FOMO, I would have tried to make an appearance at all 3, rushing from one to the next, never fully present at any of them. But that year, I decided to do something different. I declined all 3 invitations and instead spent the evening at home with my partner. We cooked a special dinner, opened a bottle of wine we'd been saving, and played board games by the fire. At midnight, we stepped outside to watch fireworks from our porch. It was simple, intimate, and completely aligned with what I truly wanted. As I lay in bed that night, I felt it for the first time, that delicious sensation of JOMO. I wasn't anxiously scrolling through social media to see what I'd missed. I wasn't comparing my night to others. I was simply content with my choice, present in my experience, and grateful for the evening exactly as it had been. That's the essence of JOMO. The liberation that comes from choosing your own path rather than following the crowd. It's about quality over quantity, depth over breadth, and intention over obligation. From FOMO to JOMO, a transformation story. Let me share one more personal story about the transformative power of JOMO. A few years ago, I was invited to a destination wedding in Bali. The couple were acquaintances rather than close friends, but everyone in our social circle was going. The photos would be stunning. The experience would be unforgettable. My FOMO was through the roof. But when I sat down to look at the actual costs, financial, temporal, and emotional, the picture changed. The trip would cost thousands of dollars. It would require taking a week off work during a busy period. It would mean spending extended time with people I didn't know well and navigating complex social dynamics. After much deliberation, I declined the invitation. I sent a thoughtful gift and a heartfelt note wishing the couple well. The week of the wedding arrived, and instead of being in Bali, I was at home. But here's what I did with the resources I had preserved. With the money I saved, I took my parents on a weekend trip to a nearby lake house, something we had been talking about doing for years, but never prioritized. With the time I saved, I finally started the creative writing course I had been putting off. With the emotional energy I preserved, I was fully present for a close friend who was going through a difficult divorce that same week. As I sat on the dock with my parents, watching the sunset and listening to their stories, I felt it again. That powerful JOMO. I wasn't in Bali, and that was more than okay. I was exactly where I needed to be, investing my resources in what truly mattered to me. Later, I saw the wedding photos on social media. They were indeed beautiful, but not once did I regret my decision. Because JOMO isn't about missing out on something good, it's about opting into something better, something that aligns with your authentic self and your true priorities. JOMO is the ultimate freedom, the freedom to choose your own path, set your own priorities, and live your life according to your own values, not someone else's highlight reel. Chapter 6. Digital Minimalism. Less is more. In our quest to break free from social media and reclaim our lives, we need a philosophy that goes beyond just quitting specific platforms. We need a comprehensive approach to our relationship with technology as a whole. This is where digital minimalism comes in. Digital minimalism is a philosophy that helps you question what digital communication tools and behaviors surrounding these tools add the most value to your life. It is motivated by the belief that intentionally and aggressively clearing away low-value digital noise and optimizing your use of the tools that really matter can significantly improve your life. The principles of digital minimalism. Digital minimalism is built on 3 core principles. Clutter is costly. Digital minimalists recognize that cluttering their time and attention with too many devices, apps, and services creates an overall negative cost that can exceed the small benefits that each individual item provides in isolation. Optimization is important. Digital minimalists believe that deciding a particular technology supports something they value is only the first step. To truly extract its full potential benefit, they need to think carefully about how they'll use the technology. Intentionality is satisfying. Digital minimalists derive significant satisfaction from their general commitment to being more intentional about how they engage with new technologies. This source of satisfaction is independent of the specific decisions they make. These principles form the foundation of a healthier, more intentional relationship with technology. One where you use technology as a tool to support your values rather than letting it use you. The digital decluttering process. The path to digital minimalism begins with a process called digital decluttering. This is a more comprehensive approach than simply quitting social media. It involves temporarily stepping away from all optional technologies in your life and then carefully reintroducing only those that align with your values. Here's how to conduct your own digital declutter. Step 1. Define your technology rules. Start by defining what optional technologies means for you. These are typically technologies you can step away from for 30 days without creating harm or significant disruption in your professional or personal life. For most people, this includes social media, online news, video games, streaming services, non-essential smartphone apps, recreational internet browsing. You'll also want to define rules for technologies that you need to use. For example, you might still need email for work, but you can set specific times to check it rather than keeping it open all day. Step 2. Take a 30-day break. for the next 30 days, step away from all optional technologies as defined in Step 1. This is a more radical approach than gradually cutting back, and for good reason. It helps break the psychological attachment and habitual use of these technologies. During this period, you'll likely experience withdrawal symptoms similar to those described in our chapter on digital detox. This is normal and temporary. Push through it. Step 3. Rediscover high-quality leisure activities. The most important part of the digital declutter isn't what you remove, but what you replace it with. Nature abhors a vacuum, and if you don't fill the time previously occupied by digital distraction with meaningful activities, you'll likely slip back into old habits. Use this 30-day period to rediscover or explore high-quality leisure activities such as reading physical books, practicing a musical instrument, creating art or crafts, cooking elaborate meals, engaging in physical exercise, having face-to-face conversations, writing by hand, learning a new skill, volunteering in your community. These activities provide deeper satisfaction than the shallow dopamine hits of social media because they involve what philosopher Matthew Crawford calls embodied cognition, the integration of mind and body in focused activity. Step 4. Reintroduce technology selectively. After your 30-day break, it's time to reintroduce technology, but not in the same way as before. For each technology you consider bringing back, ask yourself, does this technology directly support something that I deeply value? Is this technology the best way to support this value? How can I use this technology to maximize its benefits and minimize its harms? Only reintroduce technologies that pass this strict standard and be specific about how and when you'll use them. For example, instead of saying, I'll use Instagram again, you might decide, I'll use Instagram for 20 minutes on Saturday mornings to share my photography and connect with other photographers. The power of digital minimalism in action. Let me share the story of Emma, a graphic designer who implemented digital minimalism in her life. Before her digital declutter, Emma was constantly connected. She checked Instagram while brushing her teeth, scrolled through Twitter during her commute, watched Netflix while cooking, and fell asleep to YouTube videos. She felt perpetually distracted and struggled to focus on her design work, often missing deadlines or producing work that didn't meet her own standards. During her 30-day digital declutter, Emma experienced intense withdrawal symptoms for the first week, reaching for her phone dozens of times a day out of habit, feeling anxious about missing notifications and struggling with boredom during moments of downtime. But by week 2, something shifted. She rediscovered her love of sketching, something she used to do for hours before social media consumed her attention. She joined a local hiking group that met on weekends. She started reading physical books again and was surprised by her improved ability to focus on a single activity for extended periods. When the 30 days ended, Emma carefully evaluated which technologies to bring back. She decided that Instagram was valuable for professional inspiration and networking, but set strict boundaries. She would only use it on her desktop computer, not her phone, for 30 minutes each morning as part of her professional research routine. She chose not to return to Twitter, finding it added more noise than value to her life. She kept Netflix, but limited it to one show at a time, watched intentionally rather than as background noise. She deleted most apps from her phone and turned off all non-essential notifications. The results were transformative. Emma's professional work improved dramatically as her ability to focus deepened. She built a small but engaged following for her sketches, which eventually led to a side business selling prints. Her sleep improved, her anxiety decreased, and she reported feeling more present in her daily life. Emma's story illustrates the power of digital minimalism, not as a rejection of technology, but as a thoughtful recalibration of our relationship with it. Chapter 7. Rebuilding your attention span. One of the most damaging effects of social media and our fragmented digital lives is the gradual erosion of our ability to sustain attention. Many former heavy social media users report that even after quitting these platforms, they struggle to read books, engage in deep conversation, or focus on complex tasks for extended periods. This isn't surprising. As we discussed earlier, the brain physically rewires itself based on how we use it. Years of training your brain to expect constant novelty and stimulation through social media creates neural pathways optimized for distraction rather than focus. The good news is that neuroplasticity works both ways. Just as your brain adapted to a fragmented attention environment, it can readapt to sustained focus. But this requires deliberate practice and patience. Understanding deep work. To rebuild your attention span, it's helpful to understand the concept of deep work, a term coined by computer science professor Newport. Deep work refers to professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. Deep work is increasingly rare and increasingly valuable in our economy. The ability to focus intensely on cognitively demanding tasks gives you a competitive edge that can't be outsourced or automated. Yet our culture of constant connectivity makes deep work increasingly difficult to achieve. The capacity for deep work isn't just a professional asset, it's also essential for meaningful leisure activities like reading complex literature, mastering a musical instrument, or engaging in thoughtful conversation. In other words, rebuilding your attention span enhances both your professional capabilities and your ability to engage in fulfilling activities outside of work. A new relationship with your attention. As you rebuild your attention span, you'll develop a new relationship with your own mind, one characterized by agency rather than reactivity. You'll begin to see your attention not as something to be captured and monetized by technology companies, but as your most precious cognitive resource. This shift in perspective is perhaps the most valuable outcome of the attention rebuilding process. When you recognize the true value of your attention, you become much more discerning about where you direct it. You naturally gravitate toward activities, relationships, and information sources that deserve this precious resource. In a world increasingly designed to fragment and monetize our attention, the ability to direct and sustain focus is nothing short of a superpower. It's a capability that will serve you in every domain of life, from professional achievement to personal relationships to spiritual development. The journey of rebuilding your attention span after quitting social media is challenging but immensely rewarding. Each day that you practice sustained focus is a day that you reclaim a bit more of your cognitive autonomy, and in that reclamation lies the true promise of digital detox. Not just freedom from the negative influences of social media, but freedom to direct your mind toward what truly matters.